Hello and welcome to this RAMP Interactive Assigning System Setup tutorial. Upon getting access to your assigning platform, you will need to do basic setup to create the structure that will be used to assign officials or individuals under your account. To do this, you're going to need to go to the Settings tab on the left-hand side and to Settings. This is where we'll have our standard controls for the assigning platform, such as hour offset to change the server time being used for your organization. It's currently set to Eastern time, so if I needed to have Central time, I'd be able to put a -1 in here and have our calculations still work. I can also adjust the date format and time format that will display in the system, adjust our main administrator information. If you use the Open Games function, adjust the number of days that are calculated for the maximum number of open games officials can work, and adjust the number of games they can work over that time period. What this means is that if you use the Open Games function, which allows officials to self-assign, they'll be limited to 10 games over a 7-day period of time, including currently their assigned games. Underneath of the Open Games, we have some of our primary controls, such as locking official decisions. If an official decision is locked, you will not be able to change it as an official after you accept or decline that game. You will have to ask your assigner or administrator to make that change for you. Availability controls whether or not your officials have the option to use dark days or available days in their schedule. Each association can choose one or the other, and this can be changed. However, we recommend doing that between seasons so as not to affect your system. Dark locations allows officials to mark certain locations in the platform that they do not want to use, which again can be toggled here underneath the dark locations area. Official certs and exams allows you to store text inside the platform based on any certifications or exams that have been completed. This feature will be expanded on in the future to also have options to pull from the registration database. Per game rate allows you to adjust by official how much they're owed per every game they work. This amount would be added on to any amounts that are set in the rates position later on. Import item creation allows the CSV import to create new items in your database. Most groups do not want to have this enabled, as this will prevent assigners from accidentally creating new positions, game types, or divisions inside of the platform. Overriding, allowing you to adjust whether or not inactive officials appear on the master override controls. A mask control for whether or not officials are unassigned from postponed games. When a game is marked as postponed, there's also an option for the assigner to remove the officials from that game on a case-by-case basis. Email notification settings, whether or not you would like the assigner to be notified on a decline. Whether or not you would like a send access request notification email to be sent to administrators for new official signups. And how long after an assignment is made before you are notified as an assigner that there has not been a response to that request. Game buffer area, where the system can use a map duration between locations to determine if an official can make it. And in addition to that, a game buffer in minutes that can be applied. So if you must have at least 5 minutes between games, you can enter that in there, and officials cannot work a back-to-back game. What that means is that if an official works a game at 12, the next game can't start till 12:05, or else they will be marked as unavailable to do so because the buffer time has not been met. If that is left as 0, it will just use the map duration to calculate the distance from one location to another if an official can make that game. Up for grabs, which allows officials to pick up games that other officials have put on an open market. Once enabled, officials can go in there, mark any game they have accepted as up for grabs, and officials can take that game from the official that was assigned it. With the up for grabs tool, it still applies rules that officials need to have the proper permissions and levels to be able to work that game to take it from another official. You can also choose whether or not this is applied for specific divisions, or if it's enabled for all divisions underneath of your platform. You can also set how long before a game starts it can be put up for grabs for an official to take it from them. You can have an assigner notified when an official puts a game up for grabs. and notify the assigner once an up for grabs game has been taken by another official. Up for grabs also uses the logic of open games to prevent an official from working too many games in a 7-day period. This feature, of course, can be disabled by turning off the Enable Up for Grabs option. It's worth noting that if you do use the Up for Grabs feature, an official that puts a game up for grabs is still responsible for that game until it is taken out of their account by another official. You have controls underneath of here for response timing, how long before a game officials can decline, how long before a game officials can accept, and how long you would like the officials to, and how long officials have to respond to a game. This appears with the game assignment that you would like to hear back with them in X number of days from when the game is assigned. Lastly, we have our auto mileage controls, where we can go in, put in the amount that officials will be paid per kilometer, what the threshold is for officials to be paid, whether or not to use the total distance or distance minus the kilometer threshold to pay out mileage, and whether or not the mileage applies to all zones inside of your platform. There's also an ability to recalculate mileage for a period of time that can be used, but will be covered in a separate tutorial. We also have options in here to use features such as billing groups, which allows you to attach to a game a billing group. Zones, which expands out the functionality of the system to have different zones that officials and assigners can be tied to. This allows you to scale out the functionality of the system quite significantly. Zone rates, if officials are paid out different rates based on the zone they're working. Levels, which allows you to use a level functionality to assign basic permissions to officials. Most groups should use the levels functionality as it makes applying permissions quite simple and very efficient. Whether or not date of birth, phone number, and address are mandatory fields in the system, which we highly recommend using, as certain features in the system, such as distance from location, must have an address on an official profile to work, and whether or not to show any info content you've added to the platform to the officials, which will be shown later. You can also control what the default suspension length is and whether that is locked. You have an ability as an administrator to suspend officials, which will functionally make them blacked out for that period of time, which can be adjusted here. If the time frame is not locked, when a suspension is added, you can add that suspension for any period of time. Whether or not to show information about the assigner on emails, such as the assigner's name, phone number, and email address. How you would like to do your pay rate structure, either the default option, which is based on the division, position, and game type, and potentially zone of the game being worked, or based on the level the official has. Certain sports or certain activities have different pay rates based on those two options. You also have an option, if you use a default pay rate, to use the per game rate to give each official their own custom pay rates based on their own information by going into their official profile. Finally, whether or not certain certifications are required can be controlled here. This feature may be expanded on in the future with ties in on the ramp registration platform. Whether or not officials will receive the Gamesheet app code. For certain sports, such as soccer, officials also work as the timekeeper, not just the official on that game. For official adjustments, not using the auto mileage, you can set what the rate per kilometer is for officials to enter how many kilometers they drove. And finally, whether or not to share officials' information with each other via the official share contact info. If this is selected, from an official's login, they'll be able to see all other officials underneath of this organization and some basic contact information for them. And that covers the settings page underneath of the assigning platform. And we can now move on to setting up the platform's zones, divisions, positions, game types, and levels. We can now move on to the next step of setup, which is zones. Zones allows you to scale out the platform as large as you need it to be. If you are small organizations, you may not use the zone functionality, but it accomplishes the ability to allow officials and assigners to be in parts of multiple groups to work or assign games. When you create a zone, you'll be able to then assign officials as well as admins and assigners to that zone in order to work in it. If you want to create a new zone, simply click the Add button and put in the zone name. Once that zone exists, again, you will be able to assign officials as well as assigners to that zone for the purposes of working it. Once you have created all of your zones, you can move on to positions. Positions are what you're going to assign inside of the system. You can create as many of these positions as you want, and they will appear on your games or your assignments to be assigned. To create a position, hit the Add button, type in the name of the position, choose whether or not it is active, and if it is hidden from other users. If the position is hidden from users, it means that other officials won't be able to see if this position has been assigned on that game like they can normal positions. The only person that will be able to see them is the assigner, and the individual who's hidden from other users will be able to see who else is assigned on that game that also isn't in a hidden position. In this case, I'm going to hit save and create the supervisor role that will be hidden from the others inside of here. You can also choose how these display in the system using the display order function here on the right-hand side to choose which fields appear first in the list as needed. You can also edit or delete a position with the buttons on the right-hand side. You can also search for a position using the search bar at the top of the page. Once you have created all of your positions, you can move on to divisions. Divisions are what games will be sorted into. These do not have to match up one-to-one with your league or association website, as sometimes you'll have multiple divisions on a website feed into a single division inside of the assigning platform. For example here, we have a U18 tier 4 to 9, which means that all tier 4 to 9 games are assigned underneath of this one division. The main benefit for creating separate divisions are to 1. Break out permissions for officials to work certain divisions, and 2. Break out pay rates as needed on those divisions. To add a division, simply hit the Add button, put in the division name, and the default length of that game if there is not a game end time assigned to it when the game is created. This would be the length of the game slot, not how many minutes are played. I'm going to mark it as active and save that as a new division. Once divisions exist, you can edit them to additionally augment them with additional pieces of functionality. To do this, you can go in, open up the grayed out positions, and choose if any positions should not appear by default for this division. If grayed out, this position will appear hidden underneath of those games and can be selected on a case-by-case basis by your assigners. You can refer to our game assignment video to see this in action. After game types, we have levels. Levels allow us to create a basic level of permission that can be given to an official en masse. How this works is that on the left-hand side, you can create a level with the Add button, give it a name, and once that level exists, adjust it in the same way we've discussed before with a display order field, edit button, and delete button. In addition to that functionality though, on this page, you can assign levels to divisions and positions. Upon clicking this button, it will give us a grid of all of the different divisions. And when you open up that division, you'll be able to see what access an official gets based on that level, and can be adjusted by checking off boxes inside of here. So for example, for U16, if you're a level 3 official, we could say you could work as a referee 1, referee 2, linesman 1, linesman 2. We could also open up U18 tier 2 and say the same thing, or U18 tier 1, and check off off-ice support and supervisor. By checking these off and saving it, it will update anybody with that level of access. This also allows you to apply permissions to officials en masse underneath of the Officials tab. So any official with a certain level will know what they'll be able to work by default. After levels, we have arenas. This will be renamed based on the type of sport you are assigning. It can be simple as locations, fields, pools, gyms, etc. And from here, we're able to filter and check off what locations we use inside of the platform. When selecting these locations, they will be saved in our platform for whenever we want to create a new game or change the location of a game. If you are using the assigning sync, it will automatically select those locations when those games are brought across from your league or association website platform. And we'll take a look at the game sync here shortly. Next, we have the rates page. Here we can assign a payout amount based on the zone, game type, division, and position for all officials inside of the platform. You can see that this can get rapidly complicated if you are using zone rates, as each zone will have its own payout type. You can filter these controls with the buttons at the top for specific divisions, game types, positions, and zones, and set the amounts as needed for each one. These can be adjusted at any point and will apply into any future games based on the adjusted amount. If you are using a level-based rate, you will simply set on the levels page how much that level is paid rather than a per game rate, which we are looking at now. Next, we have billing groups. If you turn on billing groups in your settings, you can assign a billing group to each game. Billing groups will calculate out how much is owed to an official based on the billing group. This allows organizations who have to pay out based on geographical area or specific zones across multiple zones to properly be charged and report on how much they owe their officials. To create a billing group, we simply hit the Add button, give it a name, a contact name, and a contact email for that billing group. Once you have created that billing group, it will appear in the list and can be edited and deleted as needed, and additional billing groups can be created using the Add button. The system also supports the ability to track pay periods. Officials can run reports on how much money they're owed, as can you, but you can also create pay periods in the system to automatically track how much is owed over a period of time. To set up your pay periods, go to the Pay Periods menu, hit the Add button, and choose what type of pay period you would like to create. You can choose from custom, monthly, semi-monthly, weekly, and bi-weekly. If you choose custom and hit the View button, you'll be asked to give a start date, cutoff date, and payday for each of the pay periods you would like to create. If you choose any of the other options, it will give you a payday offset, start and end date, or if you choose an option such as semi-monthly, midway point, or day of the week to select for your pay period. You can also choose while setting this up what the start and end date of the pay periods will be. Once you've created your pay periods, you can move on to Postponed Types. Postponed types can be created and used when postponing games. When you select and edit a game, there will be an option to postpone the game and state a reason for the postponement. To do that, hit the Add button, enter the name of the postponement, and hit OK. You can add as many of these options as need be. Lastly, underneath of your settings, you'll be able to access info content. Info content will be displayed to officials when they first sign in to the system underneath of your account, or when they access the info content tab inside of the app. Information can be put in here such as images, text, details about your organization, or information they need to be aware of as part of a member of your organization. To change the text, simply click into the text editor, make your changes along with your basic word style controls, and hit save. That concludes basic setup of the system. From here, you can begin to create your admins and assigners under the Admins and Assigner tabs, as well as distribute your front-end link, which can be found underneath of the dashboard at the top of the page. In this case, rampdemoclub.rampassigning.com. Additionally, if officials have created an account via the app, they can search for your organization there, underneath of the Organizations tab, by searching for your organization name. If you'd like to watch any other tutorials, please check the description of this video for information on setting up your officials and admins and assigners. If you need additional support in assigning, please feel free to reach out to support@rampinteractive.com, 866-607-7267, or to your administrator for additional help. Thank you for watching this Ramp Interactive assigning tutorial.